Hey guys, Banana Luck here. Welcome back to another Water of Realms video. We have the Dracula banner that's gonna be starting in 2 days, actually. Depending on where you're on, it could be tomorrow, but yeah. Today's video is gonna be very simple. We're gonna be breaking down a few things. First of all, if you're new to the game, how to actually PD manipulate. What that does is that it leverages the limited banner that Lady Mina is on to help you to get 2 legendaries instead of 1. So yeah, Lady Mina is guaranteed in 200 summons, but this 200 is separate from the game's inbuilt PD system, and we'll talk more about that later. The other thing that we wanted to talk about is the Dr. Van Helsing banner. So this is a very unique banner in the sense that you can select one other legendary hero to be featured. So it makes it very valuable whether you're a new player or you're someone who's more end game or mid game. We are looking for certain power spikes or awakenings to help you progress in the game. This banner is going to be very helpful for that. So we'll talk about what are the best units to select there and how best, for you to actually benefit from this. And then with the Dracula banner, I think nothing much to really talk about here. We have the 90 summons guaranteed. We're not sure whether we'll get any other ancient banners. If we do, then you could potentially do the PD manipulation that we talked about, but for Ancient Lord instead, since on Ancient Summons, there is no PD for non-Lord units, only PD for the Lords. But yeah, that's gonna be for another video if we do get another banner that's better, because given that it's a gun banner at the moment, it is definitely not worth it for you to PD manipulate on this. Now, before I do start off everything, I want to mention something that's similar to what we had the last time around. Let me just look for it. Yep, there we go. So this is the artifact shard assembly calendar that they have for Mina's artifact. And you can see very clearly here that throughout the entire banner's duration, we have the spiritual altar, which is running 3 times. And if I recall from the last time that we had this, all 3 of the spiritual altars actually carry ancient summons. So the best way for you to maximize your summons throughout this entire collaboration event is to try to spread it out as much as possible so that you can maximize it and max out the spiritual altar every time it refreshes, because the collaboration banners are always going to be on throughout all 3 spiritual altar durations. So just bear that in mind. Make sure you don't blow all your summons on the first week and then you miss out on summons in the second and the third week, because it's just wasted resources and it's free ancients up for grabs, so don't miss out on that. And yeah, if let's say you have been playing since the last Dracula collab event, if you haven't leveled up Mina's artifact, this is the chance to actually get everything maxed out. You could get the level 6 artifact if you win a couple of oracles combined with the shards that you had remaining from the last time around. Alright, that's enough of me yapping. Let's move straight into PD manipulation. So if you're new to the game, this is how most gacha games work. There's a PD timer rule. So after a certain amount of summons you've done without a legendary, you are guaranteed to get 1. And in Water of Realms case, it's within 200 summons. The soft PD, we call it, starts from 180 summons onwards. So at 181 summons, you will get an increased rate of 5% on top of the default rate of 0.5%. So it's going to be 5.5%, and every summon you do from there on without a legendary, it's just going to keep increasing until it maxes out. And that's how it works. And yeah, how you count that, you just have to go to the last tab here, summoning record, and you can see right here how many summons I've done: 10, 20, 21. And then you can see right here, I have Violeta Vein, so 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So I'm 28 summons away from PD. That's how you count your PD. And then now let's move on to the other bit, which is, let me just pull up the right image. And not too far away, but yeah, having a bit of difficulty to find it. Okay, there we go. So this is the PD manipulation table that I've created to just guide you on how to do things. So how PD manipulation works is if you focus on the last few lines at the bottom, Lady Mina is guaranteed in 200 summons, unless you get her earlier. And this limited guarantee is separate from the PD timer that we just talked about. So if let's say you're close to PD, the PD timer that we just talked about, but you summon Lady Mina around the same time, both PDs get reset. And the Lady Mina's PD is gone forever, the limited guarantee, whereas the normal in-game PD will always run. So that is why you want to try to maximize and get both of these PDs procced at the same time. How do you go about doing that? You can look at the first scenario here. So if let's say I'm fresh into PD, I just got my last legendary 0 summons ago. What I'll do is I'll do 180 summons on Lady Mina, and if I swap over to the Van Helsing / pick your own banner, I can summon 20 more times. That will guarantee me a legendary. It may be Van Helsing or what I pick or something else altogether, but the point is that you get one legendary here. And now, if you switch back to the Lady Mina banner, you will see that you're 180 summons / 200 summons in, which means that if you do 20 more summons on the Lady Mina's banner, you are guaranteed to get a copy of her. So instead of getting just one legendary in 200 summons, with 220 summons, you're going to get 2 legendaries instead. And one of them is going to be guaranteed, that's going to be Lady Mina. The Van Helsing pick your own banner, that really depends on your luck, on what you get. So that's how PD manipulation works. And we have the second scenario, a bit different here. You're much more deeper into PD. So you just do 20 summons on Lady Mina, you switch over to the Van Helsing banner, you get your legendary, then you switch back to Lady Mina. You can only do 179 more summons, which brings you up to 199 summons on the Mina's banner. So from there on, you have to switch over to Van Helsing again, do 21 summons at max, and then you move back to Lady Mina's banner with just 1 summon, and in total, you're going to get 3 legendaries in 241 summons. So I know this is a lot to take in if you're a new player, so if you have any questions, leave it down in the comment section below. Try my best to answer them, and yeah, hopefully that helps you out. And one last thing to note is that you can get your legendary before you hit the PD of 200 summons. It definitely could happen. So if let's say you get Lady Mina earlier, then the whole PD manipulation thing goes out of the back because you already got that guaranteed copy of her. You can't manipulate anymore. And if let's say you get a random legendary along the way, then you need to recount your PD and see whether it makes sense to still PD manipulate. And if you have questions on that, once again, leave it down in the comment section below. Alright, so that's it for the PD manipulation bit and everything that I wanted to talk about. Now let's talk about my tier list of what are the best units for you to pick out during this pick your own banner we have with Van Helsing. So it's gonna be a very familiar picture because we just did this almost less than a month ago with Guan Yu's banner, where he was actually on a pick your own banner with Guan Yu was a banner unit with that pick your own selector active once again. So nothing much has changed. I have added 2 heroes in, so let's run through this really quickly so that you guys know what to expect. So on the right hand side here, we have yes, maybe, no, pretty straightforward. Everything that's green you should go for. Maybe means it depends on the situation. Red, which means no, means that you should not do that unless you're Mega Kraken and you don't really care about how you're spending your money, then just do whatever the hell you want. So now, these heroes are not really ranked in any particular order, but I'll say that Nerja on the top of the list is intentional because he is possibly the best unit that you can pick on this banner if you don't have him at A3 minimum. So Nurture is arguably the best starter legendary that you can get still in this day and age. He can be used in every single stage 24s of the gear rate. So gear rate 1, his execute helps plenty. Gear rate 2, he can be the solo DPS. Gear rate 3, he can help with taking down the boss as well as the exploding mobs that she summons. He hits air and ground, which is a big deal. There's stuns in his kit. He also does execute, and all in all, the high base damage and everything just makes him an absolute beast in every single piece of content. He's great in Maurix as well for events where AoE damage is required. He's always useful, and A0 is probably the biggest impact, which is the first copy of Nurture that you can get. A1 offers him some slows if there are 2 targets in range. Not really necessary. I'll say A3 is the big one where he gets true damage every time he procs his ultimate. A5 is a revive for him, but not really necessary unless you are very competitive in GVG. So Nurture still remains top of the list. Now, then we have Erlis. Erlis is the best GVG healer at the moment. No one can beat her. She is also one of the 2 rage regen healers that we have in the entire game. What does that mean? Because we have a lot of healers that do rage regen, but we only have a few healers that do global rage regen. So if I just swap back onto the screen here, you can see whenever the hero is on the field, allies recover an additional 1% rage per second, and the effect increases to 2% for allies with Serene Breath. So this is very unique in the sense that only 2 units in the entire game have this global rage regen. Most of the units require you to be in range to get the rage regen, but for Erlis and Eloin, as long as you deploy them, everyone on the map is going to get that rage regen, and that's exactly what I mean. And the other big thing about Erlis is that she is meta in every, or rather 2 out of 3 arenas. So you can see right here for AoE we have Erlis, for single target we have Erlis as well, and these are the most staple teams to go after. There's really nothing much that can beat Erlis at the moment, and very big awakening at A3. If we can just pop over here. So A3 basically gives all units that are healed by her a damage increase. It can be a 50% or 30% increase, depending on whether you proc it when the ultimate recipient drops below 75% HP, or whether that buff just expires. That affects the damage buff. But I can treat it as a 50% damage buff in most of the instances that you're using her. And she is also required for Matrix because you need 2 set of rage regen healers. So that makes her a very good unit to go after from A0 all the way through A3. A1 is a smaller one, but what this basically does is that it allows more units to have Serene Breath procced on them. And Serene Breath is a very big component of her kit because it grants all units the damage increase from A3, and it also doubles the rage regen that we see here. So as long as you don't have her at A3 yet, she is probably going to be a very good healer to go after. Now, the next unit that we're going to talk about is going to be Beelzebub. So Beelzebub is a very unique unit. He is quite niche, but he is required in quite a few pieces of content. First of all, it's owing to the fact that he has a very unique inspiration range. Most healers have a cone-shaped range, but Beelzebub has a normal attack range as his, inspiration range. And we don't get that often because he's actually classified as a mage, as you can see here. So that's why he has that unique range that I mentioned. The other thing is that he has very high BP. So we have 130k here at A1. I think my Uridin was topping off at about 126k. And yeah, that was with him with the absolute best gear that I've ever had. On Beelzebub here, I really don't have the absolute best gear on him yet, but he's still achieving these crazy numbers. So that's one thing to take note of. The other thing is that at A3, he has a very high inspiration uptime because every basic attack that he does, he gets 2% rage, which makes him very good for boss content. because he is offering the highest uptime as well as that unique range that not many people have. So I would say that Beelzebub is more endgame. He's not really someone that you must go for if you're early on in the game, but he is still a top contender for the many things that he offers. Then now we have Nerissa, basically the better version of Fercy. Both of them are AoE damage reduction healers, but Nerissa just does it way better. And Nerissa also has inspiration on her kit. She offers it to one unit, where she's A0 to A4. By A5, she grants it to 2 units instead. And she is also a unique unit in the sense that she enables tacticians to move around. And as long as she has an inspiration on these tacticians, they will get healed no matter where they are on the map, even if they are outside of Nerissa's range. And that makes her very unique for Malrix, where she's an amazing unit to have that. So not much to mention about Nerissa here. I'll say the base copy and the A5 is the biggest awakenings, because from personal experience, I have her at A0 and she's still good enough for every single piece of endgame content that we have out there. But definitely the A1 with increased AoE reduction and A3 with extra shields really helps plenty when you're looking at endgame content. And then next we have Verlis. Now, in my previous video, I put Verlis in yellow tier and Destin was pretty mad about it. So I moved Verlis up to green instead because she is a very strong AoE mage. One of the best feats that I like to share with people about Verlis is that she's able to solo lanes on Malric level 4 keys. And that's a very big deal because we don't have many units that can do that. We have Valara who's able to do so. We have Rosalia. But Rosalia does have a problem with rage uptime and also the fact that she doesn't hit air. Verlis is able to do both, and one very good thing about Verlis is that she's very synergistic with Azeroth. So Azeroth has this Devourer mode where he consumes summons, and every time he consumes summons, he gives 15% rage to units from the Curse Cult faction which Verlis is on. And what makes it so unique in terms of the synergy is that for every other unit, the summons have to be in Azeroth's range. But for Verlis specifically, when the Serpentine Spirit expires, the spirit will actually move to Azeroth instead of having to, be in Azeroth's range. So this is why they are extremely synergistic, because no matter where you put Verlis, once the summons expire, they're going to move to Azeroth no matter what. And that is more than good enough reason to go for her, because these two combined together have a very high ultimate uptime. And she is very strong as hell on her own with summons. She does a lot of damage, and A1 is a nice one with the stuns, but not really necessary. I'll say the big awakenings for her is her base copy, and then A3 where the Serpentine Spirits get 2 extra attacks, 2 more if let's say they kill enemies, and then A5 granting damage increase, whenever her Serpentine Spirits expire. I think that's quite a big deal as well. So she definitely deserves that spot here. I just didn't feel like she was as useful. But then we also saw more content where she was being used, like the recent Tower Deception rotation, as well as, Malrix. And even though she's not used in Matrix anymore, but I blame that on back Matrix design, she is still a very good unit to go after. Now, that's all the must-pull units that I want to talk about. Now, we're just going to speed run through very quickly the remaining units. We're not going to touch too much on them because these units are starting to get a bit niche. So we have Eloin, first of all, 1 out of 2 rage regen healers similar to Earlis. Global heal range with her portable Wood Elves. She also offers Dispel, which is very important for Sembra, as well as Matrix. And she is also a requirement there, but I think the base copy is more than good enough. But given the fact that Earlis is much better, I will more or less always recommend Earlis over Eloin if you don't have these 2 units. But it's honestly down to personal preference. I think both units you can't really get away with in a bad situation. But I just think Earlist generally is just going to be more helpful as you progress through the entire game. And yeah, she has a nice awakening at A3, offering Dispel chance for every time she heals, but it's definitely not necessary. So for those reasons, I prefer to go after Earlist because almost all of her awakenings are just great. And then next we have Numera, 1 out of 3 of the Poison Trio. So a very good magic DPS that's single target in nature. She also offers damage reduction, which makes her very useful in content like Abyss, where damage reduction is required. She has very strong awakenings from A1 through A3. A5 is a bit more sustainability, but A3 is the biggest boost for her because it offers her up to 45% magic resistance ignore. And if let's say you're missing her, you already have Vaughn and Nestia, then this is definitely one of the units that you want to consider going after. And then we have Rosalia, very strong AoE mage, recently used in Tower Deception Stage 40 and Hidden Chamber 8. 25 seconds on knockback, making her an absolute menace for Baron stages in Marek level 4s, which used to be very, very tough, but Rosalia does very well there. She's also being used in Artifact Material Raid for stage 27 and 29. And for sure for 23 and 25 you can use her as well. But for 27 and 29 she really starts to shine because not many units can offer the amount of damage that she does. She has very strong awakenings, but they are not necessary. I'll say a base copy of her is more than good enough. A3 is extra DPS for her. A1 gives her 100% reach when you spawn her, because otherwise she spawns with 0. And then A5 is a very niche use case where she becomes very, very useful in AMR 29 if let's say you have her A5. But any other awakening, she's still going to be equally strong. And she is personally going to be the unit that I'm picking because I want to snack her A3. Now, we next have Vaughn. Similar to Numera, 1/3 of the Poison Trio. He offers Offensive Dispel, which is a requirement in Semra. And also, he offers a very unique mechanic where he can inflict 2 separate stacks of poison. There's no other units that can do that in the game at the moment. So that's what makes him very valuable as part of the Poison Trio. And he does pretty decent damage himself too. And then next, we have Adrian. So one of the HP based DPS we have in the game. A mandatory tank for Spellsbane Matrix. Why do I mention that? It's because you need him to achieve a 80k score. So if let's say we go on to Matrix here, you're gonna see that most of the 80k scores and above that you have in Matrix, you're more or less always gonna have Adrian in the mix, except for this absolute baller where, you know, he just managed to break it through without Adrian, but everywhere else you're gonna see Adrian in the mix because he is just so damn good here. Now, we have some alternatives these days. We have people running like Valderon Tank, but at the end of the day, Adrian is just gonna get the job done in a much, much easier manner. So there's really no reasons to not to go after him. But the consideration here is that you only need A0 of him. So is it better to, you know, pick him on this banner, or should you go after the Nascent banner? That's one of the other questions that we'll be addressing later. And he basically unlocks the 200k score without having to have crazy magic suck awakenings. And then we have Violeta Vayne, part of the Infernal must-haves because she amplifies burns, which is a very big part of the Infernal kit. Also 30% magic resistance down, and she does very good damage on her own as well. Her A1 is huge because it reduces the amount of burn stacks that you need to unlock her skill kit. A3 is also extra damage overall for her, and given that she's quite a recent unit, some of you might have missed her or missed that A1 awakening and you might want to go after her, but I'll say that unless you're banking on the fact that Infernals are going to be the next meta in Abyss 2, she is not going to be one of the units that you really want to go after. And then we have Guan Yu next, a Matrix Specialist. Very strong at A5, but the problem with him is that you don't really need him anywhere else in the game. So that's my problem with Guan Yu even at launch, and in Matrix at the moment, I'm running him in the team but he does so much damage that he just builds stacks way too quickly, and it's very hard to use him there. I blame it on Matrix design once again, but yeah, he is definitely one of the contenders, but that's only after you have all the units above him sorted out. And yeah, A1 and A3 are nice awakenings, but not must-haves. A5 is the big one because it unlocks the strongest skill in his kit, which is Dragon Eidolon's mode. So yeah, that's why A5 is the only one that I say that you should go after if you're missing just that one awakening. Now, there are some other notable units as we had the last time. Silas Vienna if you're lacking one of their bonds. Lord Finis, for example, if you're lacking him in Infernal Trials, but given that we have the new Infernal units, Lord Finis might not be that required anymore. We also have Ares for Gear Dungeon, but we also have Rosalia for that now. Then we have Draylin for Abyss, Gear Rate 2, as well as the new Artifact Material rates. But any of these units, you only need the base copy of. I really recommend that you consider Nascent instead. And everything else that I've not mentioned here, you should probably not pick them because they're not going to help you in any specific game progress as much as the other units that I've listed here. Now, we've come to almost the end of the video here. Now, one question that you should ask yourself when viewing all this is that, what do you want to focus next in this in the game? If let's say you want to focus on like Gear Rate 1, then units like Beelzebub, Verlis, Rosalia, those units are definitely going to come into play, as well as Nurture. But if let's say you want to focus on like Abyss, for example, then units like Numera, Violeta Vane, as well as Vaughn, those are the units that will come in more handy. So those are the questions you should ask yourself. And then number 2, like what I mentioned, if you're looking for a fresh copy of the unit, perhaps wait for Nascent instead to grab them, because most of the time chasing awakenings is what you want to do here. And then number 3, most importantly, if you're looking to clear a certain piece of content, are there alternatives to the hero? Must you summon those heroes on this, or can you make a better decision there? So if you have asked yourself all those questions and you still have some doubts, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below. But that's basically it for the video. It's been a pretty long one, but yeah, as usual, we always need to cover this in much details to make sure that, we have all the units covered here. Now, I think all the new units that we've needed to add have been added to the list. So let me know down in the comment section if you think I missed out anything, or if you have any questions, leave it down in the comment section below as well. And good luck if you're doing any summons this weekend. Make sure to spread out your summons across 3 spiritual altars. But that's basically it for the video. Thanks for tuning in. Leave a like or subscribe if you enjoyed the content. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.